Hey, it's Joy. I've got big feelings about little things, and I want to talk about it. Oh yeah, I'm mad about it. And the fact that everyone else is not up in arms about it is a big part of the problem. Oh, I bawled my eyes out, like I always do. It was the sweetest thing. Oh, it was the cutest thing. It was the funniest thing. Thanks for being here. Let's go. Hi, friends. Thank you so much for being here. It's Joy. I've got big feelings about little things today. I'm having big feelings about getting to have great conversations that I've wanted to have for a really long time. So last week, thank you so much for joining us. My friend Nikki and I were here, and we were chit-chatting about what it's like to have known each other since we were 5 years old and be able to see each other again. It was such a great time. And as you know, when you get together with girlfriends like that, the time can just fly. So I asked her to come back. Thank you so much for coming back, Nikki.
Absolutely.
I'm very glad to have you here. I actually wanted you to stay for a specific reason too. I have, just to catch you up, this is Nikki Spurlock. She's a longtime friend of mine. We went to kindergarten together and then went to elementary school all through those 6 years or so. We were great friends. We went to Six Flags a lot together and went to the mall together and had sleepovers together, and even still text back and forth now every so often, but haven't seen each other in years. We saw each other in the parking lot, came inside, chit-chatted about our younger years, and I asked her to stay because I have, as is for us to do now, we get to watch each other's lives over social media. So even if I don't necessarily text with you or talk with you, I do get to see, like, watch your posts over the years go, which you could probably say the same thing about me. Like, oh, I saw that you did this, or I saw that you were doing that. How was that? That was really cool. And one of the very cool things that I've gotten to watch over the few years, I was hoping we could talk about, if it's okay. So when we were kids, one of the many million things I knew about you, besides that you were funny and you were a great time to hang out with, you were athletic. I also knew that you were adopted, and it was not a big secret from anyone. But I do know that during that time, which was like the 80s, early 90s, it did seem a little different from the culture, I would say, that we have now. It seemed a lot more closed adoptions, a lot of secrecy. I even noticed a lot of kids weren't told until later in life. It wasn't a thing that they were told as they were growing up. Is that accurate from where you sat?
Yeah, I mean, I probably learned about it earlier than most, but that was because my brother told me when I was 3, because we were fighting, and he said, "You're not even blood related."
Wow. So, but interesting that the culture was that was a negative thing.
Yeah. Of course, honestly, I think I thought, oh, good.
Good.
Yeah, good.
I used to dream.
Good. Thank you, Lord.
My sister and I used to say it as like a dig on the other one, like, oh, no, you're theirs. I'm adopted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't belong to this.
And then it was explained to me like, oh, you're special, and, you were meant to be for us. And anyways, I never had any weird feelings about it. It was my family. But yeah, I knew nothing about any of it except for the day I was, my birthday and where.
And your mom would tell you those stories?
Yeah, I mean, okay. I was adopted the day I was born.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will say you did seem to fit right in with the family. Everybody in the family like had a big personality, and it was always a lot of fun to be at your house. It was a lot of fun. It was like, we're gonna play games, or we're gonna laugh, or we're gonna and we're gonna play cards, or we're gonna whatever. But it was always a very fun and safe place. Yeah, so it was fun to be friends with you, and it was fun to come over to your house. I was glad last week that you told me that you came over to my house, because I don't remember you coming over to my house ever.
I do. Remember we would always play the game of life?
Oh, that makes me feel better. Yeah, not really. Okay. I remember going to your house because my house was my house, and it was whatever.
The clock that would...
Yes. Don't sleep over there tonight. I mean, it'll ding, ding, ding every 15 minutes. Every time I sleep over there. My parents have a grandfather clock. They got it for their anniversary like 30 or 40 years ago.
That was so cool.
I mean, now I'm like, can you not? Because that thing's going to wake me up at 3:15. Can we put it on silent? I don't need a clock telling me every 15 minutes what time it is. You know, we don't live in the castle. It's really not appropriate. It's not appropriate for this venue, but thank you. And I appreciate your marriage. That makes me feel better that you did come over.
Oh, I did.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit of you grew up knowing you were adopted, but did you know your birth family, your bio family, or
No.
do you have a preferred way for me to refer to that family, biological family? Or,
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't. Yeah.
I
usually say biological.
Okay. I don't like the term real.
Oh yeah.
I struggle with that, but otherwise I don't know.
Also, side note, I'm not sensitive about any of it. So
okay, great. Well, that's
sometimes when I say mom, people will say, "Oh, is this your real mom?"
Oh yeah,
and I'm like, "Oh no, whatever." But it doesn't bother me. But yeah, so I didn't know anything about it, any details about it, except that my birth mom was young when she had me. She was like 16, I think.
Oh wow.
And so that's why she gave me up for adoption. And then I knew nothing until I was 17, and it leaked from my dad that they knew a name.
Are you serious?
Yeah. They had kept
So
it from me.
before that, if you could have known, would you want to have known?
Probably not.
Okay.
It was weird to me to think about having another family that wasn't the one I knew.
Sure.
Yeah. And then my mom was real mad at my dad for he slipped. And
we agreed on this.
Yeah. But then I was like, I don't know. I was never bothered by any of it.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me that they hadn't told me. I was kind of like, well, is there anything else I need to know?
Wow. What else is on that list?
Truly, there wasn't. And so in the future, when I did look for them, that name came into play. So,
I didn't know. That's fascinating.
Yeah. And I also went to high school with a guy who had the last name of her. And I thought, oh my word, what if we're related? I don't know if we are. I really don't know.
But just best not to know. Let's just leave
Yeah.
it. But how fascinating. And so I think the reason this is so interesting to me is because having not experienced it, I just can't imagine all the things that it makes you wonder. Like, is this dude that I'm dating secretly my brother? But I mean, that's like such a random thing, but there's so much not known that then you're like, wait, what do I not know?
I mean, I was obviously the oldest because my mother was so young when she had me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, plus I didn't date a lot. I didn't have a lot of guys that wanted to date me. So maybe that's why it wasn't really a problem.
I thought you were cool. I thought you were dating everybody all the time.
No.
Don't ruin the surprise for me. I mean, don't ruin the idea for me. But so what changed between, okay, I know that my parents know the name of my birth mother, but my bio mom, was there a time when you decided I would like to meet her or like to meet the family? Or
it was after I had kids, after I had the girls and my mom.
Real quick, because not everybody knows you have two daughters.
I have 2 girls, yeah.
That honestly, even from social media, seems so cool. Like I kind of want to hang out with them.
They're so cool.
I love it. I'm not surprised.
So funny.
I feel like your house now is even a step up from what it was when we were kids.
They're
that it's like
so
fun to hang out with.
I love them.
They seem very funny.
They're
and
so funny.
I love it.
Yeah. So after I had the girls, I didn't have any medical history or anything. Also, my mom, my adopted mom, said at one point, like she was getting curious. And she had never been curious before. And I think part of that was because she was worried maybe that I would want to find my birth mom or, and then there was a huge age difference between my birth mom and my biological mother.
Oh, uh-huh.
So maybe there was a fear that I would want to
look
her up. And anyways.
So I do feel like in that time that was way more prevalent. I mean, I feel like even hearing about adoption type things from my mom who had not adopted a baby, but there was this idea of like, we want to make sure the bio mom can't find us because she's going to try to come snatch the baby.
Yeah. I mean, there is always that fear. Like it's so different now than it was back then. Now it's more common for it to be open. And
Yeah, which I love. I think that's a great step forward, but it certainly did not feel that way when we were growing up. And I think that's well reflected in, I don't know if you ever watched This Is Us.
Oh, yeah.
But there was a adoption story in there, and the adopted mom knew who the father of the child was and never told him because she was afraid he was going to kind of try to come take him. And but the son was angry, that she never told him that. Did you ever watch that or?
Yeah. So I actually started watching it, and that was the point when I stopped watching it. There was something about that bothered me. It didn't make me upset at the mom for not telling him, because obviously she was protecting him from something, but it just made me, and I think I was upset that he was so mad at her.
Oh, interesting.
That's what it was. I was upset that he was so mad about it. And it bothered me because I was always really protective of my mom.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't want to look for my birth family if it made her uncomfortable or,
Yeah.
So really when I was older and she expressed interest in knowing answers or looking for answers, that's kind of when I moved forward with it.
Interesting. In a certain way, it kind of freed you to be curious about it.
Yeah. And I thought, it's probably best that I know medical history.
100%. I'm a nurse, so we think about that a lot. We would love for you to know.
All your life.
Yes.
And I would always be like, no, I know nothing.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know. And it's always fascinating too, because some people, you just never know what little piece of information is going to spark something for, some physician or something. So I think that, like, not knowing your medical history, but I also remember I was a kid and I had this very weird habit where I would kind of fluff my eyelash,
that.
But I would tuck it inside my eyebrow. And it was like a not an ASMR thing, but like a little tick thing.
Yeah.
But it somehow satisfied this weird need in me. And I can't explain it, but I remember one time I was doing that and my mom said, your grandmother used to do that. And she died long before I was born.
Wow.
And so even those little things, like, why do I talk this way? Or why do I do my fingers this way? Or like my fingernails, the pads of my fingernails are tiny. And so are my dad's.
Oh,
and people will try to do my nails and be like, what are these nails? I'm like, they've always been my nails and they're my dad's. So just those little things of knowing kind of like, where do you come from? Or when my sister and I joke with each other, like, you're your crazy father, you're your crazy mother, like that, just to even those personality things or those little, I just think it would be interesting to not know.
Yeah. When I had Landry, my oldest, that was my most exciting part of having her, was knowing that she would be the first person I knew that I shared DNA with.
I love that. Oh my gosh.
I've always been fascinated with like nature versus nurture and all of that. And that was probably the biggest. I was like, I just assumed she would pop out looking like little Nikki.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, in a way they both kind of do, but they're also their own person, which is fascinating.
Sure. Yeah. It's really fun to see personality. Like my younger one is more like me in personality.
Okay. I can see that. Yeah.
Landry she looks more like me, but she has different coloring. She's lighter skinned and Logan has more of my coloring. It's just fun.
Yeah.
And so, everyone is split. They're like, oh, Logan is just like you. Well, it looks just like you, but it's really because her personality and like mannerisms are mine. And then Landry just looks a lot like me.
It's just so fascinating.
Also that pretty, but
I think you're gorgeous, and you're aging like fine wine, honey. You look great. Do you mind just briefly, I know we're running out of time, but how did you find, I know that you found your bio family because I kind of watched that journey, but did you reach out? Did they reach out? How'd y'all find each other?
Because I had this name that I knew.
Oh, right. Okay.
And
and just real quick, did you find it out when you were 17 or when you started looking, you were like, I want to know the name?
No,
had you known the whole
I found
time?
out the name. Yeah. When I was 17.
Okay.
Yeah. So that name I always had in my head. And then, a girl that I worked with at the time. So it's been 7 years, I think, 6 or 7 years since I found them. She was really interested in doing that type of stuff. So I, gave her the name and obviously the date I was born and where I was born and all of that. And she ended up finding them on Facebook. And so I reached out to who I thought might be my sister. And, you can message people that you're not friends with. And so I reached out, and I think I didn't hear anything for a while or something. And then maybe a few months later, you got to get into it, and then you get tired of looking, and then you quit for a little bit.
Okay, I believe it.
It's kind of exhausting. So I finally connected with the girl, and I said, you know what? This sounds crazy. You do not have to respond to me if you don't want to. I don't even know if this is the case. Here's this name that I have. And she was like, call me right now, and gave me her number. And I called her, and it was actually her aunt who was my mom.
Oh, wow.
So the name that I had for some reason was her mom.
Oh,
but she's really my aunt.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't know why or whatever, but yeah. So, and then that evening I had a group call with my birth mom and her sister, and then the girl who is my cousin.
Wow.
And I could not tell who was who on the phone because they sounded the same.
Do they sound like you?
No,
because you grew up in a different place.
Well, and
but isn't that interesting?
Yeah. And then I immediately, my half brother drove up, was in like the next week to meet me. He was so intrigued. And so we met and had wine for like 4 hours, and we are so much alike.
I love everything you're saying. I love everything about it.
I still talk to him all the time. We've been on vacation together.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
It's been really great.
Did it feel like it kind of filled in some of those?
No, that's the funny thing. When I met my birth mother and her sister, my aunt came up to Arkansas to meet me. They actually met my mom, my adopted mom, first here in Dallas, and then drove up to meet me and stayed. I rented an Airbnb. We stayed, hung out for 4 days, and it was awesome. And then I just lost my train of thought.
That's fine.
What was I saying?
You were saying it didn't. I said, did it fill in some holes for you?
Sorry.
You said no. Yeah, that's
sorry.
okay.
So before my mom and my aunt left, my aunt said, did you have a void? Or no, she said, do you feel like you are fulfilled now? And I said, honestly, no, because I didn't have a void.
Yeah.
There wasn't a void to fill. And it was really overwhelming when I found out who they were, because I realized they all knew about me, but I didn't know about them.
Oh, wow. And probably for years.
Yeah. And I kind of felt like it was this can of worms that I wanted to kind of squish back in for a few days and just sit on it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I knew there would be questions, and I hadn't even told my mom yet.
Oh, wow.
And,
yeah.
Which
you were so protective of her in the first place.
And then a good friend of mine who I would see as a mentor, I reached out to her. I was like, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. And she said, you will grieve the loss of knowing what it was like to not know them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I would have never thought of that.
Me neither. And strangely enough, they had adopted a child later in life, had 3 others, natural children of their own. And she said before they adopted him, or when they adopted him, they had to grieve the life they knew before.
Yeah.
It was like there's just this transition, and that made so much sense to me, even though it wasn't a really emotional thing.
Yeah.
And
it's still a big change.
Yeah. It was an emotional event for my birth family, but it wasn't an emotional event for me. I mean, I loved it, and it was sweet, and I loved them. I mean, I have a relationship with them still.
But it wasn't like you were sitting, searching, finally found it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I hope it turns out to be something that was cool that ended up benefiting you to know, but I'm also grateful that it wasn't this big hole that you need to fill, because some people don't get to meet everybody.
Yeah.
And they don't get to know, and that's okay. You don't need that. is what I'm hearing you say,
Yeah,
to like have a
definitely.
fulfilled life.
And it can be scary. It may not be something that turns out the way you want. And that was not what I experienced at all. It was like having a bonus family.
That's awesome. Well, I do think the main thing we've learned from your story is we do not need any more old men in private investigation. We need these women who know how to work Facebook and know how to work Instagram, because I'm telling you, I can be like, hey, can you find so-and-so? And I would never ask an older man. I would ask like a millennial
Listen, my
woman,
daughter, my oldest daughter, she's on it.
It takes literally no time, right?
She'll be like,
find
he's
everything.
in jail.
Stay away from him. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. It's
Thank
such a
you for
delight
having
to see
me.
you. Please go see Nikki Spurlock on Instagram, Facebook. She's an amazing artist, has had a cool store. I don't know what you're doing right now, but I'm sure it's something very cool and exciting. And please go support her. It means the world to me that you would support me in this way. Thank you so much for being
I love
here.
it so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, we got to go. We got to go to Six Flags. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Little Things, Big Feelings with Joy Delaney. I'm James, the producer, editor, director, and executive producer. Follow Joy on socials at Joy Delaney Cox on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Honestly, forget TikTok. I don't even know how to
You
use
don't
it
even
anyway.
know how to use it anyway.
James.
Follow Joy on socials at Joy Delaney Cox on Instagram and Facebook. See you next week.